Hello, I'm Jared Taylor with American Renaissance. On Monday, Alabama Congressman Mo Brooks said that Democrats have declared war on whites and that they claim whites hate everybody else. Liberals are miffed. Michael Smith, writing at The Nation, scoffed at the, quote, obvious ridiculousness of the idea of a war on whites. Jay Bookman of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution said the congressman's claims will, quote, be greeted with eye-rolling. The Young Turks put out a video that called Mr. Brooks a white, racist, lying politician. But of course, Congressman Brooks is right. Let's start small. Anybody can complain about whites. In March this year, a Middle Easterner wrote an article at Slate.com called Why I Can't Stand White Belly Dancers. About 2 weeks ago, a white woman wrote an article at the Huffington Post called Why I'm Tired of Seeing White People on the Big Screen. Try writing something like that about anybody besides white people. But these days, the most popular way to attack whites is to say that we all benefit from unearned white privilege. In Duluth, Minnesota, there are huge billboards that warn white people about their unfair privileges. In Wisconsin, the Department of Public Education taught white high school students to wear white wristbands to remind them of white privilege and to set aside time every day to think about how they benefit unfairly from being white. And just this month, for the first time, the Harvard Kennedy School of Government will start making all its students go through, quote, power and privilege training, where they will learn that white men have all the power and privilege. Last year, there was a report on the textbook the Army uses to train what it ironically calls equal opportunity officers. I'll quote from it. Whites are the empowered group. White males represent the haves as compared to the have-nots. Assume racism is everywhere, every day. Understand and learn from the history of whiteness and racism. Support the leadership of people of color. The manual is full of dark warnings about what it calls the white male club, which keeps all the goodies to itself. Well, when the Common Core curriculum takes hold, the Army won't have to teach soldiers about white privilege because they will have learned all about it in 4th grade. The curriculum suggests 2 weeks of classroom study for a book called The Jacket. Marguerite Parks of the University of Wisconsin says it is, quote, a wonderful book about white privilege. The civil rights icon Reverend Joseph Lowery delivered the benediction at Obama's 2009 inauguration. Recently, he told a reporter that when he was younger, he thought most white people were going to hell. Now that he's older and wiser, he thinks all white people are going to hell. By the way, Mr. Obama gave him the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2009. These days, racial preferences for non-whites in hiring and college admissions are so widespread and so old hat that nobody even talks about them anymore. It's the same for minority set-asides in public contracts. If you're a person of color, you win the contract, even if your bid is 15 or 20% higher than a white man's bid. This can add up to billions of dollars, and it's called equal opportunity. Well, maybe that's why last year a poll for the Center for American Progress found that 56% of whites age 65 or older think that discrimination against whites will increase as the country becomes less white. But who cares what old white people think? Also, last year a poll by the Associated Press asked Americans if they thought the country was generally headed in the right direction or the wrong direction. Well, guess who's happiest? It's blacks. 72% say we're going in the right direction. 55% of Hispanics say so too. only 34% of whites think we're going in the right direction. Maybe they feel they're under attack. Whites are hugely overrepresented as taxpayers and hugely underrepresented as tax consumers. The Center for Immigration Studies found in 2012 that only 17.6% of white families are on welfare of some kind. For Hispanic families, it's 40.1%, and for blacks, 43.8%. In the case of Mexican immigrants, 57.4% of families are on welfare. This map from the New York Times shows the percentage of whites in each county of the United States who were on food stamps in June 2009. In the darkest blue areas, more than half of whites are on food stamps. This map shows the same figures for blacks on food stamps. Whites shoulder a disproportionate share of the costs of all welfare programs. But if we're talking about war on whites, perhaps you remember when Jamie Foxx was hosting Saturday Night Live and explained what his new movie, Django Unchained, was all about. "I kill all the white people in the movie. How great is that?" he said. Sure enough, after they watched the movie, dozens of blacks tweeted that the movie made them want to go out and kill white people. And that's what some of them do. Just last month, Ngor Peter Makui knocked on the door of the Des Moines home of Mr. and Mrs. Rupert Anderson, where they had lived for 67 years, and bludgeoned 97-year-old Mr. Anderson to death and nearly killed 94-year-old Mrs. Anderson as well. Mr. Makui didn't steal anything, and police have no idea what his motive was. Just last Saturday, police arrested Sharman Odom for killing Maggie Daniels. She was a school counselor and left her apartment door unlocked so students could drop in on her. Mr. Odom, who lived in the same building, dropped in on her and strangled her. There are an estimated 800,000 violent interracial crimes committed every year, and blacks commit 85% of them. There's more black on white than black on black violent crime. The statistics for rape are even more lopsided. In 2005, the last year for which the Department of Justice has meaningful statistics, there were an estimated 37,500 black on white rapes and sexual assaults. There were so few white on black sex crimes that DOJ couldn't even come up with an estimate. But let's get back to Representative Brooks. Dana Milbank at the Washington Post joined the attack on him and wrote, quote, "The disassociation of whiteness and Americanness is to be celebrated. Indeed, it is the key to our survival." Got that? America won't survive if it continues to be white. Mr. Milbank goes on to welcome, quote, "the fresh blood needed to cure what ails us." We white people are sick, you see, and the country won't survive without foreigners. Mr. Milbank is getting his wish. Thanks to the non-whites pouring into America, whites can expect to become a minority by about 2042. But don't worry. Mr. Milbank says we can, quote, "adopt pieces of their culture lacking in our own." You see, we sick white people with our defective culture will survive only if we let in more of those wonderful Mexicans and Haitians and Guatemalans. If that's not a declaration of war on whites, I don't know what is. So stick to your guns, Congressman Brooks. You don't know the half of it. Thanks for listening.